Yo, what is good, Mets Nation? Welcome back to another episode of New York Mets Talk featuring Wardy NYM. What is good, Wardy?
What's up? What's up? Been a busy day for both of us, it would seem. Yeah, I know we had to run on this thing real late because I was streaming for the Mets spring training game today as they lost 3-1 to the Nationals. And you've been busy with your other channels because a lot's been going on in NFL free agency, huh?
Yeah, I mean, for those guys that know me, I got channels all over the place. The Jets, and it's the middle of the NFL offseason. Free agency has officially begun. I've been live streaming daily since Monday and been waiting for news to break. And I've been live for 3 hours straight with no news. And it's frustrating sitting there refreshing Twitter with everybody, but it's been very successful. So shout out to all the Jets fans that are tuning into those streams. But of course, I got to make some time for my Mets content because I've been missing out. I really am on top of myself. I'm like, damn it. The Knicks play every other day. The Jets are kicking off their offseason. I'm like, I can't find time for these Mets videos because I'm all over the place and I got a job I got to worry about. So don't worry. I'm going to get a lot of Mets content coming out. But luckily, I got my guy Tyler to come on the stream with me to talk about what's going on. He was live over on his channel today during the entire spring training game. Unfortunately, we did not come out on top. If you guys are not subscribed to Tyler, I'm assuming you guys already are, but make sure you do so. That's down below in the description. And if you guys are new to the stream, do not forget to thumbs it up. So today we're going to talk about everything coming out of the New York Mets spring training, whether that's the Francisco Lindor, contract extensions, or is it who's red hot, who's struggling, injury news, all that latest stuff. So I know you were live during the entire game today, Tyler, so want to give us a little recap?
Yeah, sure. So recap of today's game was pretty simple. They didn't have their normal lineup out there. They had some actual stars in the lineup, most notable being guys like Brandon Nimmo leading off. Then you had James McCann at catcher. You had Nito out there as a DH, even though he's not normally a starter. But then you outside that, you really had J.D. Davis, who's third base, but then you had the other guys like Kevin Pillar, Amor, etc. So it wasn't their normal lineup because the past couple of days they've really been loaded, like what we can expect for the season to start. Stroman was on the mound, and Stroman pitched really well. I gotta say, he had a bunch of Ks, some nice Ks also looking. He gave up one run, which was to Kyle Schwarber on a solo shot within the first 2 innings, but outside of that, he was basically flawless. Gave up a hitter there, I think, or a walk, but he was just really on his game today. And I think what I appreciated the most about it all was as soon as he was done and got off the mound for the day, he was in the bullpen working more. So I thought that was great to see him already working as soon as his day was done. That was awesome. And other than that, Jeurys Familia gave up another solo home run to Hernandez, who was a 32-year-old rookie, I believe, for the Nationals trying to compete for a spot. He had a bomb opposite field off of Familia, and right after Familia touched 99 on the gun. So he's throwing harder than I really ever seen him before, and yeah, he gives up that bomb. So not too great on Familia, unfortunately. Aaron Loop also gave up a home run to the first batter he faced in relief, that being in Josh Bell, who took him opposite field. So Nationals have a lot of hit and miss guys, especially the guys they added this offseason. Josh Bell, Kyle Schwarber, these guys are going to probably hit for a low average, and they're going to have a decent slugging. You can expect at least 20 bombs from both of them, respectively, this year. Really big swing and miss guys that actually just didn't miss today for the most part. So that's really all there is about the Mets game. They didn't do too much offensively. Tried to get a rally late. They got a couple guys on, but then they grounded into a double play to end it. So that, in a nutshell, is the recap on today's game.
Yeah, I had the game on while I was live during my entire Jets media stream, and I wasn't talking about it I actually was here and there, but some of the plays I saw was Guillorme at short being a wizard, and also Stroman with a beautiful play defensively at the pitcher spot. So it's good to see some defense, flash of defense. But let's get into some players that are absolutely exploding so far in spring training. And the first guy I want to talk about is Big Meat Pete Alonso. He looks like he is in rookie form, and it's funny that we say that because usually when you're a rookie, you're not really
you're right.
But Pete Alonso is coming into a guy that looks like he is developing into a true all-around type of hitter. I mean, he's not just hitting bombs. He's hitting home runs. He's, getting those extra base hits. He's getting on base a lot. So what's your take so far on Pete Alonso's spring? Do you think it's going to carry over? And what type of Pete Alonso do you expect us to see throughout the entire regular season?
Yeah, he's just seeing everything right now. Yeah, this is by far the most confident I've seen Pete since his rookie year. 2020 feels like it didn't even happen if we're basing it off of his spring training performance. Now, granted, we always got to take everything to not necessarily the full extent. He's seen a lot of pitchers. A lot of the times he's hitting these bombs or doubles off of that aren't necessarily going to be MLB caliber this year because of spring. But regardless, it's nice to see him actually hitting versus not hitting. And he's doing it consistently. I think what stands out to me the most about Pete this year in spring training is that he's not chasing much. Like that's been the biggest issue with him. He's a big swing and miss guy like Schwarber and Bell to that extent that could hopefully hit for better average. I'm like, okay, if Pete hits between 250 and 265 during the season on average, that's more than enough because he's going to make up for it and say a lower average with the high RBIs and the home runs. He's going to be competing with the top dogs in the league again this year because he's one of them. If this is telling of anything, I'm seeing a confident Pete that has shortened his swing a bit, that is really being as composed as possible at the plate. So I think that's going to transition into the season. He's going to have his highs and lows like any other slugger in the league, but I'm very happy about him, to put it lightly. I'm really excited, as a matter of fact, to see just how much he's thriving. And the biggest thing, as long as he doesn't have too many long routes of swinging at everything that comes his way, I think we're going to see a very deadly Pete Alonso.
Yeah, man, you hit it on the nail. I noticed that as well. The big problem with Pete Alonso last year was he was swinging at pitches down and away out of the strike zone. Did not look like he was seeing the ball well at all. And it was frustrating. He was striking out. He actually led the MLB in strikeouts in the first 10 games or something like that. And also, Pete looked really bad in spring last year before the MLB season got canceled.
As did a lot of players.
Yeah. And then when they resumed in July or whenever they did, Pete didn't look as good as we thought. So maybe now that he's having a red hot spring, and then if you remember his rookie season, his first at bat in spring, he hit a bomb. So, yeah, like Tyler said, we can't read too much into spring, but you can definitely see that Pete Alonso's seeing the ball well. He's hitting that home run he had the other day when it was a high fastball. It looked like Cespedes. Like that was the type of stuff that Cespedes was known for. If you throw the high cheddar and he gets the barrel on it and he has that really quick bat speed, that's getting out of here really fast. Mm-hmm. And Pete Alonso is spraying the ball over the place. He's hitting nukes to the opposite field. He's pulling home runs. He's getting on base. And I'm just excited. I think that he is somebody, he's like an X factor on this lineup, because if we can get a Pete Alonso that can have a high slugging percentage, even getting his average, I think, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but if he can bat over 270, that's really good for Pete Alonso, because he's not a guy that's going to hit, 300. We can't expect that. But I'm really excited that Pete is looking like he's going to be a beast, because like I said, he's an X factor for this lineup. If Pete Alonso becomes the slugger and that crazy home run type of hitter, and he gets in clutch opportunities late in games and gets those extra base hits with men on base, then this lineup's going to be great, because we know how deep it is. Like we saw the game when Jacob deGrom was pitching on SNY finally. That looks like what the lineup's going to be. And it was a little taste of how deep this lineup is, and it's pretty insane. So if Pete Alonso can keep it up when the season begins, we are going to be in good hands. So let's talk about Jacob deGrom. Why not? Because he is something else. He has pitched 9 innings in total, 16 strikeouts, 1 earned run. I mean, I feel like we don't even talk about deGrom enough, because we're just so amazed by him, and we know where we're going to get from him. So we're worried about all these other guys.
Yeah.
But wow. He takes my breath away. He really does. I every time I watch him, I get more impressed and more impressed. He gets better and better every year. And it just comes down to being a masterful genius when it comes to mastering your craft. And he's a relentless worker. And what I love about him, he's a perfectionist. Like if he gives up 1 home run,
oh my God,
he's freaking out himself.
Did you see his reaction to the home run he gave? Literally, that ruined his night. I guarantee it. Doesn't matter if he literally struck out the side after that. It did not matter. Okay. This guy, anything short of perfection, like we said, because he said it himself. This wasn't as evident when he first came in the league, but really, as soon as he cut the hair, it's kind of funny how that works. It's a whole new ball game. Like I was fortunate enough where I went to deGrom's first start in his Cy Young Award winning season in 2018, like the start of actually Cy Young deGrom. And he was phenomenal against the Cardinals. Mets won that game, and he was lights out. But since that point, it's been like, we've all known that since deGrom first came in the league that he was something special, especially being such a late round pick. But over the past 3.5 years or so now, he's just been in another level. And the scary thing is that he's still getting better. This guy looks like he has Benjamin Buttons disease over here. He's hitting 102 in spring training. He didn't hit 102 at all last season, if my memory is not mistaken. See, Thor hitting 96 is a great sign. Yes, it is. And Eric's awesome. He's a great member on my channel. But yeah, no, Thor is also hitting 96 when he's not even 100% yet. So Thor should be hitting 100 plus, right around 100 once he's fully healthy. We get between 90, 99, and 100. I think that's great. But DeGrom, yeah, 102. Like, what was your initial reaction when you saw that? Spring training, not even halfway through a spring when he was hitting 102 the first time. Like, he's ridiculous.
My first instinct was like, yo, DeGrom, chill. I don't know, man. But I trust him. I just hope that he would hold off the gas a little bit, but at the same time, you can't blame him because he's working on his technique, and it makes it look so effortless the way he has these fastballs hitting 99, 100, 101 at times. It's not like he's trying so hard to throw it hard. It's that technique. It's that really extremely long stride that he has, and it's those really long legs. Everything about DeGrom is masterful. His ability to get that corners. He just is a precise pitcher that we are very thankful to have, and he's getting better and better each year. He's great, and he's proving why he's the greatest pitcher in the MLB and arguably on pace to be one of the best pitchers of all time if he keeps it up, especially like he's getting better and better. And we thought like after his second year of the Cy Young, we're like, oh, wow, that was great. Like maybe he can win Cy Young again. And then he finishes in the finalists and he doesn't get it. And we're like, all right, so what kind of DeGrom are we getting now? And he looks better in spring. I don't get it. This man is getting better with age. He's kind of like Tom Brady. He's like LeBron James. I mean, LeBron James is 36 years old. He's getting better every single year. Tom Brady, 43 years old. He's getting better with age. It doesn't make sense. Maybe he's on that pace where when he's 38, we're like, yo, DeGrom, how are you still doing this?
Let's put things in perspective, right? Because in my mind, DeGrom's going to push all the way until, as long, God willing, he stays healthy. He's going to pitch until he's upwards of 40. And the main reason for that is when you see pitchers nowadays, especially as they adapt, velocity naturally comes down. Okay, so let's hope that DeGrom, throughout the next 2 years at least, is really this flamethrower, right? But odds are it's going to dip at some point. So what do you worry about when you don't have the velo? You start to worry about not just your control, but your spin rate and all these things. And DeGrom, if you look at other guys that are currently older in the league, Max Scherzer, for instance, yes, he dealt with some injuries the past year or so, but Scherzer, when healthy, he's 37 years old. He acts like he's 27. He's still a crazy horse on the mound. He wants to pitch every single inning, all 9 innings for the Nationals. Then when you look at other guys like up until his Tommy John he just had, Justin Verlander, 38 years of age. This guy is pitching still the best of his career currently, and it's all because of spin rate and control and off-speed stuff. DeGrom, in my mind, is going to fall right in that category. And even to an extent, Zach Greinke, because Greinke, I believe, is 37 as well, and he still looks so much younger than what he is. But my point is that even when the velo dies down, I think DeGrom is going to continue to be a dominant pitcher in this league, really leading up until 40, as long as he stays healthy. He's going to really take advantage of the times and slow his stuff down, but just be a crafty pitcher. And I really think we're going to see that with him, which is great knowing that we don't have to worry too much about the next 3 to 5 year window. I think he's really going to be a horse throughout this entire span.
Yeah, man, let's hope so. Hopefully we can see DeGrom get another contract with the Mets in the future and he can finish his career here. He got asked about that because I'm pretty sure he has a player option this year, which I don't like the sound of that. But my gut tells me he stays. But if you guys are new to the channel and not subscribed to Wardy and myself, please make sure you do so. And also hit that thumbs up button if you did not already. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Shout out to everybody in the chat. I hope you guys are enjoying your beautiful, what's today, Thursday? And
What's today? Dude, that's been this week in a nutshell, bro.
Literally. So another player I want to talk about who was on the mound today is Marcus Stroman. He looks like he's on every time he's pitched so far, it's been televised, I feel like.
It's like they want you to see him.
Yeah, and I love it. I mean, Marcus Stroman is somebody that is another X factor on this rotation. We're going to get into Cookie's injury, but especially with the injury to him, we need him to step up. And I feel like the type of Stroman we're seeing, his stuff is the movement on it and his ability to remain balanced on the mound and change up his rhythm is so unique. There's not a lot of pitchers that's able to do that. His fielding is very good. We saw today, he like barehanded it and threw it off his back foot, got the guy out first base. That's very awesome to see. And I love Marcus Stroman, man. His energy, his enthusiasm, his passion, everything about what he brings to the Mets table, I love. And that's somebody I would love to extend, but we're going to get into extension talks later on. So what have you been impressed with the most with Marcus Stroman so far this spring training?
For me, I think it's been just really how he's been able to command at the end of the day, like after giving up a run or something. He's been able to handle himself really well after giving up a run, because he's given up a couple runs this year already. I think he's given up 4 or 5. I think 4 in a certain amount of innings. I'm forgetting how many off the top of my head. But even after he gives up a run, you can tell he really isn't all that rattled. He gets right back in the groove of things. Similar to Jake in a way, just not as consistent because DeGrom isn't going to be giving up a run every outing normally. Stroh composes himself well. He's gained a nice strikeout rate we're seeing today. Was another example of that. I'm just liking what I'm seeing. He's confident. He's infectious, whether you love him or hate him, because I know he's very controversial to many. All I care about is how he performs with this team at the end of the day, and that he brings positivity to this group. And I'm not seeing anything to suggest otherwise. So I'm fully with you. I think Stroman, he's going to be a big X factor this year. And I think it's a perfect segue because he made note how devastating it is to hear about the Carlos Carrasco news today, and really segueing from one guy who we expect to have a big year to another. So what's your thoughts more on Stroman, if any? And then I really want to touch on Carrasco.
Yeah, it's tough, man. Shout out to Sports Media Mark. What's good? Welcome in, everybody.
What's up, Mark? How's
Nelson,
it going?
Angela, Aaron, everybody that's in the stream. Appreciate you guys tuning in to another New York Mets talk. Their love is always appreciated. So, yeah, Cookie, devastating news. He's got luckily it's not a long-term injury. I mean, a hamstring strain. He's going to be out for weeks, maybe, hopefully not a month. But those things, especially if you're up there in age like Cookie is, you don't know how long he's going to be out for. He also was dealing with an elbow problem, which did not let him pitch at all. So he's definitely banged up
today.
They what?
He simmed today. Yeah, he was dealing with the elbow. Like he had a flare up in his elbow, so they had him not do anything for a bit. Then he had a 20-pitch simulated game today, which led him to pulling his hamstring. So that's what happened.
Yeah.
So now he has to get an MRI, and we have to find out how serious his hamstring strain
that
is.
definitely tells me he's going to be out by opening day, because
I think so too.
That's in 2 weeks, which is wild. My birthday. But yeah. Word. So if Cookie's out, then our rotation is going to be DeGrom, Stroman, Walker, and then I guess Peterson, Lucchesi, or Peterson. And I mean, what do you think the 5-man rotation is going to be? Because I feel like luckily we were smart and we got a lot of players to fight for that 5th spot. And now that we got an injury, we set ourselves up. And that's what we needed to do. When we missed out on Bauer, we used the money and signed a lot of pitchers that could step in there and be a starter. I think it's devastating because we felt like the trade for Lindor and Cookie is going to really bring a lot to this team from the pitching rotation and the shortstop. But it sucks. Injuries are part of the game, but I really think the Mets were set themselves up for this opportunity to have depth. So I like what I saw from Joey Lucchesi, his last start, which was like last game or so. I don't think he started. He came in late, or did he start?
Oh, no, he started yesterday, and he had 3 scoreless innings.
Yeah, 3. That's what I saw. So what do you think the starting 5 rotation will be without Cookie?
Well, yeah, that's tough because, even if Cookie's out, let's say worst case scenario, he's out for at least a month, right? So which means that he'll be out for 2 weeks of the season. In that scenario, you're going to have 2 guys out of the 3, but one of them needs to really solidify themselves as being here once Cookie's back. Should that be the case, right? So in my opinion, I think that it's really tough right now. Every guy really has as good of a shot as any. You have Peterson, who had a very strong campaign his rookie year last year, who this year in spring, he hasn't been stellar. He definitely has actually been the least of the 3. And also shout out to Darren. He's an absolute G. He's a Mets fan that lives in the UK, which is really damn cool.
Wow. But I love your profile picture. Big Star Wars fan, Darren. Appreciate the love, man.
Yeah, that's dope. But I do believe that Pearson, to an extent, might be on the outside looking in. The Mets are toying with the idea of a opener. So I'm almost thinking that we're going to see one of Peterson, Lucchesi, and Yamamoto be the 4th starter should Cookie miss at least a week or 2. And then the 5th spot will be for a spot starter. So one of whoever doesn't crack that 4. And then it'll be between those two that go the first how many innings or so. Maybe they split them 4-4 or something, or 4-3, something along those lines. I think the Mets are going to get creative, especially if Carrasco is out for the first week or two. I just don't. I think we're going to just see stuff that we kind of weren't expecting. Like, it's not out of the realm possibility to suggest that these three all make the club to start the year, and then when Carrasco comes, you reassess from there.
I agree. What's good, Ryan? Appreciate you always tuning into all my streams. Let's go, Mets.
Same here. What's up, Ryan?
Yeah, man. I think that's a very creative perspective you got there. That fifth man, we can split it and go 4-4. I definitely think that's an option. We also have to realize that Syndergaard's coming back, not like in April or May, but he's definitely coming back, and that's something that we have to keep an eye on. Where these injuries in the long term will be okay. I'd like that the Mets set themselves up with depth. So next thing I want to talk about is Francisco Lindor. And before we talk about his extension nonsense, which I don't want to talk about, I want to talk about his play, because his play is looking nice. He had that beautiful home run. He's making plays at short, turning double plays, getting into the hole, looking like a beautiful shortstop that needs to be here for 10 plus years. So what's been your take so far on Lindor, and what were your thoughts on that nuke of a home run he hit?
Oh, it was awesome. Yeah, I was streaming the game as it happened. I then beat SNY to it and posted their own clip on YouTube right away of his first home run. So that way I could at least get like 1,000 Mets fans to see that right away. So I did that, even with it being crappy quality and all. But awesome bomb there by Lindor. He had 2 hits yesterday as well. He's back in the groove of things. He's actually looking like the Frankie Lindor, or just Francisco Lindor, because apparently he doesn't like being called Frankie. I said this in my stream, and everyone jumped down my throat. I think he said in a presser recently that it's like lazy. He doesn't like the term Frankie because it comes off as like a nick. I don't know. Regardless, I'm not going to say Frankie. So Lindor, however, I think that he's looking great. He's finally looking like what we expected, at least from the bat starting. The glove we've already seen. But yeah, I'm very happy about it. It's awesome to see him get his first bomb. I still can't believe it. And yeah, we have a lot to talk about with him. I did a separate video on the whole contract stuff. So I'm going to hand it over to you and let you run with this.
I don't want to, man. Honestly, hearing that, it's hard. Honestly, when I heard him get asked that question and he's like, there's no extension done in spring training, I'm going to free agency. And like his demeanor and the way he said that, I was like, oh my gosh. That just did not sit with me well. I don't know what is going on behind the scenes with Sandy and Cohen and all these guys. Are they like negotiating money? Are they even thinking like maybe we shouldn't extend him? Maybe we should wait for free agency? Like, I don't know what's going on. I don't want to be reactive and get all negative, but to me right now, it doesn't seem like there's an extension happening. I don't know. The demeanor that he had, it looked very like I might be not getting extended and I might be hitting free agency and we'll talk then. That's what I took from it. I could be wrong. Hopefully tomorrow we get different news, but I don't want to sit here and be a pessimist about it because I'm just worried, honestly. Whenever I see Francisco Lindor at bat or at shortstop, I like the only thing on my mind is like I don't want to fall in love with you until I know you're my guy for the future because I want to avoid a heartbreak. I want to avoid getting attachments. I've always tried to do that. So what are your thoughts on this?
And I think Lindor feels the exact same way to an extent about the Mets. He looks very happy to be here. He's been excited. The Mets have used him as their poster boy since he arrived here, and it's not even close. He's doing interviews with Sports Illustrated and saying how he firmly believes he's the best shortstop in baseball. He says, being in New York, a new chapter in my life, the possibilities here are endless. Like, it's been all positivity here, but then to see that negativity in the presser, you could take it in the way that you're taking it, and then I'm going to give it my take, the more optimistic take. To me, it seems like Francisco Lindor he's such a good human being. He's such a humble person. He knows where he comes from. He knows what his value is at the end of the day. Okay, so it was never going to happen that right from the jump, as soon as he arrived with the Mets, that he would be extended long term because he wants to get acclimated with this new club, with this new regime, and know the direction they're going down, and for him to be comfortable with these surroundings. Because again, just because you get dealt there doesn't mean you should expect the guy who's going to commit the remainder of his literally career, more than likely, and this massive contract extension, which is what it would be with the Mets right away. He needs to get acclimated. He needs to get settled. And the Mets need to make sure that they feel the same way about him. He's checked off every box known to man. This guy literally is beyond what I even expected. The play is only half of it for him. His leadership and his personality goes so much farther than the average player. There's no one else on this roster that even touches the spectrum of what Francisco Lindor is. And that's a big thing to say, because it's not like this team doesn't have personalities and characters, but that's how much he brings. And he was clear that in this presser, which he stated back when he was first traded to the Mets, that he did not want to do anything during the season. He said before the season, because he has this dark cloud over his head. You can tell that while, yes, he's starting to hit and he's starting to look better, comfortable at the plate now, there's no doubting that this is having an effect with his play to an extent. He said openly that he was lazy last season in 2020 because of his utilization in Cleveland, knowing that, one, he wasn't going to have a future there, that extensions were, it was not going to happen. He wasn't going to get what he's looking for, that they've been trying to trade him for the past year plus. That directly went in effect with how he was playing, how he was prepping for the season, even with it being a hectic 2020 short year at all. With this Mets club now in this situation, I don't view it all that different in the sense of his mentality. He wants to show you exactly who Francisco Lindor is. He wants to be the happiest guy in baseball outside of Nemo in the outfield, and he wants to show you exactly why he's, in his opinion, the best shortstop in baseball. But he's reluctant to an extent. It's hard for him to show that, because naturally it will not kick in until he has that certainty if he's going to be extended long-term or not. If he's not extended long-term, then okay, he's going to be riding on himself, but you're not going to necessarily see the Lindor that you're hoping for all year per se, versus if you get a massive deal, if you get this extension done, 8 to 10 years, 300, 325 million, whatever it's going to be prior to the season, he is going to garner that role. He's going to have that security. He's going to be confident. We all know he's confident, but there's a difference. You know what I mean? It's like when you're playing going into a season, when you know you're due for a big payday and the team that you're trying to do extension with is not willing to meet what you're asking for prior to what your deadline is, then he has a chip on his shoulder. So that might impact the clubhouse. And he said it openly. It's not fair to me. It's not fair to my teammates. It's not fair to the club if we do an extension during the season, if it drags out, because it's going to impact everyone. Every single New York Met in that locker room right now does not want Francisco Lindor to go anywhere, and they care just about as much of the certainty of him staying long-term as does he has. So that is my stance on it. I think the Mets are, in fact, going to extend him, and I think it's going to be really like how the Mets have done most of the offseason, where we don't expect anything. It seems like when all hope is lost, bam, they do something. I think that's going to happen with Lindor over the next 2 weeks, but just keep an eye on that. I know it can be a little nerve-wracking, but he's just being straight with it. This is part of negotiations. He said that, yes, we would reassess it then as I hit free agency, but at the same time, you know, the Mets don't want him to be talking to every other team possible in the market next year. They won't be able to get him for the same price as they would if he hits the open market. And there's not nearly as much certainty as locking him up. If you give him time to talk to other teams, you do sacrifice him, even if it's around the same pay, if maybe a team is being more enthusiastic about keeping him long-term than the Mets. You know, all those factors go in. So I think the Mets are being smart. I do believe they'll get it extended. There's a slight nervous part of me in there, but I really believe that this is kind of just what we all expected. And he's fed up with the media because he just wants to be himself. You can't be yourself if you're not getting the money that you're looking for yet. Until that's locked in, when he's with a new club too. It's not like this is him with Cleveland right now, where at least he's acclimated and know the team well, and it can be easier for him to gel because he has all his buddies. That isn't the case here. This is a completely fresh start. So that's my stance.
Yeah, man, it's going to be a very, very intriguing couple weeks leading up to the, season. Sorry, the Jets are making some moves right now about damn time, so I'm just trying to stay up to date on it.
Oh, what did they do? Something?
Yeah, they signed Keenan Cole, a receiver.
Is he good?
He's okay. He's like a young guy for just a cheap little deal. I'm just tweeting it out right now.
Oh, okay.
So just give me 1 sec.
No problem.
Yeah, man. But what you were saying about Lindor definitely eases my mind because I don't know, man. I just don't want to attach myself without seeing it, because I understand his point of view where he does not want to have this being over his head during the season. And because he said he wants to do everything in his power to win baseball games, and that's what he wants to do. And if there's contract extension talks, lingering on in the offseason during the season, it's going to distract him. It's going to distract the team. And that's not what the Jets, it's not what the Mets need, and it's not what Lindor needs. So
exactly.
That's really my thoughts of it as well. I think that it's going to be a really interesting thing as well with Michael Conforto and Syndergaard and Stroman, all these guys are looking to be extended. So do you want to just talk about what you think about Conforto? Because that's another person that hasn't really been in the media as much when it comes to the extension talks. I feel like it's way more quiet.
Yeah. It sounds like Conforto isn't even going to be considered until Lindor's handled, which emphasizes it even more that you need to get him extended prior to the season. I'm more concerned about Conforto's future than I am Lindor's, to be honest. And that's not okay. The Mets have the money. They should be able to lock both these guys up long term. If the Mets let either of them walk, even if they do some type of trade and maybe remedy it, I think it's going to be unbelievably foolish. My stance kind of is on Conforto that you need to lock him up. I'm not certain that's going to happen before the season. I hope it does, but it is something that could happen during the year, or if when the year's done and when free agency starts and they still are able to negotiate it and keep him. But there's always that risk at the end of the day with him being a Scott Boras client. I just really hope the Mets lock him. Conforto is my favorite player, you know that. So I just really hope that they get him figured out and get him figured out fast. Mets got 2 weeks to get this shit done. And if they don't, if no extensions are in place by opening day, I have to be quite frank, and I think most Mets fans can agree, it almost wouldn't be a terrible idea to boycott them to an extent. Like I know that's a bizarre thing to say, but like when you have Frankie literally, oh my God, Lindor putting the foot down, saying that if I'm not extended before the season, I'm gonna hit free agency. Even if that's his best negotiation tactic, us as Mets fans should really be drilling down the throats of management, everyone. Like, okay, you need to make sure you do this. We need to make it clear. Steve Cohen listens to us. We got to keep tweeting at him. I know we're all doing it. Like, you just need to make him more and more open, because the Mets did not trade for Lindor not to keep him long term. He's 27 years of age. You have him for both short term and long term. That is what the Mets' focus is currently with their decision making. He is the exact player that you want to lock up to have the face of your franchise and the perfect age in his career. It literally doesn't get any better than the Mets' current situation. The only way for them to F it up is if they don't extend this man before opening day. So they got to do it. And until they do it, I understand why people are naturally going to be worried.
Yeah, I think we're all going to be worried up until we get anything news related, because all Mets fans do, commenting on all the social media platforms that the Mets do, like on SNY, or the Mets post anything about Lindor or Conforto, the comments is extend him. It's like it's laying over their heads, and I just don't know what the mindset is of Sandy and these guys. Like, are they going to do it? Like, are they in talks and they're just not working? Or like, I honestly think there's no excuse when it comes to it, because Steve Cohen became the owner and we're all like, oh, he's going to buy all these players. Like, he hasn't spent any money yet. He missed out on Bauer. He missed out on Springer, and I'm okay with that. I'm not upset with that. But their big splash of the offseason was getting Lindor. So now the goal is to make him the long-term answer. And I want to see the big bucks being spent, because that's what we expected when we saw the ownership change, because we're so used to the Wilpons being cheap. We're not going to be able to get anybody. We're blah, blah, blah. You guys know the deal. But we'll see, man. So let's segue into something else. Let's see. What should we talk about? So what other players in spring training has really stood out to you? We talked about Pete. We talked about Lindor. We talked about DeGrom. Is there any players that you think is destined to have a great season? I'll mention one. I think Nimmo is looking really good defensively in center so far.
Yep.
I like him in the leadoff role. And Dom Smith's looking good. So I'll hand it off to you and just talk about who really has impressed you so far this year in spring training.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people have. Nimmo's a great point. Nimmo's continued to be an on-base machine. And he only had one little gripe I can maybe call him out for in defense thus far. And it wasn't really much of his fault. It was just a bloop that fell between him and McNeil the other day. And it was bizarre. It was just a really wacky play, but I really can't give too much of an issue to Nimmo there. I've just been impressed with a lot of guys. McCann is standing out to me. He had an RBI double today. I'm just loving what I'm seeing from him. I think that he's just going to be a far bigger X factor than what we could initially expect. I think that Kevin Pillar and Amor Jr. respectively are both turning heads, both offensively and defensively. Just really all we could have asked for the acquisitions the Mets made this offseason. They're all really starting to pan out at what we're seeing, at least in spring training, outside of Carrasco, because he's dealing with his injuries, as we know. But Luis Guillorme is really standing out to me. He had another fantastic game. He didn't get a hit, but defensively, man, he does not miss anything. He's the best infielder this club has that isn't named Francisco Lindor, which should be saying a lot. Like, and I'm gonna have a video out on him. It's already recorded. I just have to upload it after we do our stream today regarding third base, because he's a big hot topic right now between that awesome 22 pitch at bat and just defensively. I don't know. I think we're actually going to see a bulk more of YNYM this year than I think some people were expecting, and probably more at third base than anything else. He's literally a wizard, as you were saying. So he's probably staying out the most to me.
Yeah, man, he's a utility guy off the bench that I love. The defense there, it's like, I wish we could find some time out there so he can play every day because I feel like we're missing out. What's your thoughts on McNeil struggling so far this spring training? Because he has
two hits.
2 hits. Okay, because I know his first hit was the home run, so he got hit after that.
Two or three, actually. Actually, wait, did he have 2 hits yesterday? I think his last game he had 2 hits, maybe. No, not yesterday. 2 days ago, I think he might have had 2 hits. I know he had the home. I'm blanking. Regardless, he only has 2 or 3 hits in spring thus far. And he just broke it finally after having a long no-hit streak.
So what's your thoughts on, I mean, obviously spring training, you can't read too much into it. We're hyping up Pete's hot spring training, but Jeff McNeil's having a little cold spring training. I don't think it's something to worry about because Jeff McNeil, I still think, is one of the best hitters on this entire team. And I think he'll, break out of it. So what are your thoughts on McNeil's struggles so far?
I think McNeil's having a lot of the same struggles he had to start last season. I don't know if you recall, but the first 2 weeks of 2020, he didn't do jack, literally. Absolutely horrendous. And then he went on a big hot streak and still ended the season above 300 because that's just how McNeil works. It looks like to me that McNeil spent a lot of time golfing in the offseason, maybe a little bit more than he should have with his swing. He's really pulling the ball more than even what he's accustomed to, I feel like, at times, down the first baseline. He's swinging at the first pitch. Like we know, he's just so aggressive, but he's lacking heavy confidence right now. And he uses emotion to his advantage to play the game. But as much as you have it as an advantage, you also have it as a disadvantage with him. And I think that's been a big issue with him. He's not a guy that you won't see either really happy or really pissed off. It's either those two. There's no in between. He's a straight shooter with how he shows himself personality wise. And I think that as frustration builds, it's showing more and more of the cold streaks he can go on. I think because he built more weight this offseason, I think he's worrying a little bit too much on that home run ball, which is something that we actually talked about before. I don't know if it's maybe because he's a little jealous of his buddy, Big Meat Pete, or not, but he's a guy that's a contact hitter, right? You want him more so in the top of your lineup. He's been batting 6th throughout spring train. Definitely part to an extent, I would say, because 1, we're so deep, but 2, with his lack of hitting. Like, he needs, in my mind, the best way for McNeil to have success is to be the contact hitter we know and love. No more of these streaks of going, 200 or less in a week and then 400. As he quoted himself going into spring, he wants to be even 300 each week if possible. Great, but you're not going to be able to do that if you're trying to pull every single pitch for a home run. And I feel like I'm seeing that a little bit more than I like with him. So that's my biggest gripe. He needs to not worry about the home run ball. It will come. All right. Like, it's naturally going to come. If you hit upwards of 20 bombs this year, great. This is not a guy that you should be expecting home runs. You should be expecting contact hitting. I absolutely love McNeil. I just want him to go back to simpler times. Get that feeling, if he can, back when he first came in the league in his first year or two. Like, similar to Pete in a sense, you have to get simplistic at the end of the day. Be happy that you're here. You can tell McNeil is not happy that he's here when he's on these cold streaks. He really works himself up harder than the average player.
Exactly, man. I love that little rant you just went on, man.
Yeah, he's just because it's clear as day. I don't think it's that hard to read him. He would probably tell you the same thing. Like, he's just one of those where I get what he's doing. Doesn't take a rocket science to figure out this man is frustrated.
Another player that's been looking good so far to me is Edwin Diaz.
Yeah, he has.
Sugar. He looks lights out, man. He looks electric. He's always had electric stuff, but sometimes that electric stuff gets hit. That's the one thing I noticed. Whenever Diaz did get bombed and everyone hated him, he was still zipping the ball, and the balls looked so nice when it was leaving his hand, and they kept hitting it. I'm like, what's the problem, man? His stuff is so filthy, but they're hitting him. Like, what was the issue? And maybe it's just the intro song. So what's your thoughts on Edwin Diaz so far? Do you think he's going to ever get back to that? I think we've said this every single offseason. is he ever going to become the Edwin Diaz he was for the Mariners?
No, he's going to become the Edwin Diaz of the Mets, and the Edwin Diaz of the Mets has yet to be seen. All right, we've seen flashes. He looked great in the short stint in 2020. He has some of the nasty stuff in all baseball. He's a top 10 reliever in the game. Do I expect this man to go out and have a 60 save season like he did record breaking like his first year or two in the league with the Mariners? Hell no. That's so hard to do. The likelihood of repeating that is slim to none. Could we see 40 plus saves out of him this year? That would be fantastic. Yes, his command looks far better. The fastball's there. He's hitting 99, hitting 100 today like he did multiple times today. I believe he gave up a couple hits. I'm actually going to just double check real quick. Diaz gave up 2 hits today because I remember seeing runners on the corners, I think, but he got out of the jam. Even in that sense, Diaz has been pretty flawless. Hasn't been giving up too much walks in spring in his appearances, and that's the bigger thing with him. Diaz only has 2 pitches that he works with. If you don't know, it's obviously his 4-seam and his slider. All right. If one of those pitches goes down, he's kind of effed because then it's like, okay, as the hitter, you know exactly what you're getting. If this man's slider's not working today, like Betances too, Betances only has 2 pitches he's been working with. If one isn't working, you're just sitting on that fastball, right? So if it's belt high, bam, gone. Or if he doesn't have his fastball, he's going to use his slider, all right? You're going to wait for it to be belt high, then bam, gone. And that it inevitably happens, but he's getting his control down. He looks confident. He looks happy. He just looks like a guy that doesn't have that same stress that he had on his shoulders with all those expectations when Brodie Van Wagenen traded for him and really was banking on his job from that move on from Brodie's side. So I'm happy about Diaz. I'm still a little concerned with him in the 9th because you're always going to have those worries with guys who have had blown save history. But until he really puts me in a position where I'm like, okay, there's a major issue, I'm gonna ride with Sugar and just hope for the best. The velocity, the nastiness, it's all there. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, man. I think he's destined to have a really good season for the Mets. I just feel like there was something wrong with his mind. I think that's a big reason as well because Mets fans are just so harsh on him. I mean, that's New York for you. I think that's why a lot of New York sports teams just don't. Some of them just can't survive because when you suck, you get absolutely torn apart. When you thrive, you get absolutely glorified. So that's the problem in New York. But I think he's destined to have definitely a breakout season because what we see from him is electric. And it's just, I think he needs to get that mindset where he's confident in himself and he's the closer and he's another X factor. I mean, I've said the word X factor over and over again, but I really feel like we need a lot of players to step up in order to make a deep playoff run or at least make the playoffs, right? So that really does it for this episode of Mets Talk. I really appreciate all you guys tuning in. This was a great time to talk to you, Tyler, to get all the latest news surrounding spring training. A lot of stuff will be happening on his channel. So if you guys are not subscribed, please make sure you do so. And more Mets content coming over here on Mets Media as well. We got a lot of stuff leading up to opening night. We're going to be live during games together. We're going to be going to games together.
And we got to talk about the games after the stream because there's actually some stuff we got to talk about regarding that. So just so you know.
Yeah. All right, guys. Do you have anything else to say?
No, I don't. Just thank you so much as always, Richie. I hope you guys enjoyed. Next week, we'll try to do the Mets Talk on my channel. We'll try to go longer too. This was one that was kind of more or less so much hectic stuff is going on, not just for the Mets right now, like personally in our lives and like Richie with his other channels. So again, we're going to be a lot more structured here going into the season and everything. I just hope you guys are going to be looking forward to it. So again, Richie, thank you so much. This was awesome. Subscribe and like to Richie at Mets Media, Knicks Media, Jets Media, and all those other great channels. If you haven't already, guys, it does mean a lot to both of us, truly. And as always, let's go Mets.
Thanks, bro. Peace out, everybody. Let's go Mets. You got